The most foolish thing I've ever done in my life was letting Hee-chang deliver my love letter. I took 3 days to write that letter, tore up over 10 sheets of draft paper, and cleared out all the light blue line notebooks from the convenience store. I went over the final version 7 times, and only after checking for typos did I carefully fold it and put it into an envelope. Then I patted Hee-chang on the shoulder and instructed him word for word. Do you remember the girl sitting in the second row by the window with a ponytail? Hee-chang slapped his chest and said, no problem. Coincidentally, Lu Ru-yin switched seats with her best friend that day. The letter ended up in someone else's hands. By that night, everyone in the class was aware. Shin Yu-chu got an anonymous love letter. Each word in that letter was meant for Lu Ru-yin. At that moment, I guess my feelings were something like this. It felt like watching my well-prepared three-pointer sink into the opponent's basket. What really drove me crazy was that the girl I had a crush on was sitting right beside me, quietly observing this whole mess. There wasn't a single word spoken from start to finish. This story begins at the start of my second year in high school. On class assignment day, I walked into class 3 with my backpack. I took a quick look around the classroom. I casually picked a seat at the back row by the door. This seat works well, it's near the door. After class, it only takes 3 seconds to dash to the basketball court. Then I spotted Lu Ru-yin. She was seated in the second row by the window, engrossed in her book. The sunlight of September streamed in at an angle through the window. The light just happened to fall on her side face. She's tied her hair in a ponytail. Loose strands of hair hang by her ears. She flips through the pages slowly with her fingers. It's like she's hesitant to turn each page. I watched her for about 5 seconds. Then Hee-chang plopped down beside me. His backpack thudded onto the table. What are you looking at? Nothing much. You're blushing. Isn't it hot in September? Hee-chang glanced over my shoulder with suspicion. Then he made a significant "oh" sound. I gave him a kick. From that day on, I picked up a new habit. Spacing out in class doesn't mean I'm not interested. It's because my seat is at a strategic disadvantage. The last row by the door is just right for seeing. The second row by the window gives a side view. Lu Ru-yin takes her classes particularly seriously. Her notes are filled with dense writing. Sometimes, when she glances up at the blackboard, he occasionally furrows his brows, lost in thought. At times, he leans on his chin. He stares out the window, lost in his thoughts. His gaze is far away, and I simply observe him. I kept watching him for a whole month. Hee-chang picked up on my odd behavior. Dude, your study attitude has been off lately. In class, your gaze keeps wandering. I was staring at the blackboard. The blackboard is directly in front of me. You're looking at the 2 o'clock position. There's just one person at the 2 o'clock position. You're quite good at physics. Why not channel this energy into your exams? He brushed off my attempt to change the topic. He said seriously, do you like Lu Ru-yin on the 10th? I kept quiet. Silence means you agree. Could you keep it down? He spoke in a lower voice. But I can't hide my excitement at all. Then just go ahead and tell him directly. What's there to say? Just tell him I like you. It's that simple. I don't back down when I'm double-teamed on the basketball court. But just the thought of standing in front of Lu Ru-yin makes me nervous. Just the thought of saying those 3 words makes my palms sweat. He and I are from completely different worlds. He's in the top 20 of his class. I'm in the bottom 20 of my class. He is reading 100 Years of Solitude. I am watching NBA highlights. She speaks softly. When I speak, the whole floor can hear me. The distance between us is not just about the 4 rows of seats. It's about the 4 dimensions. I have thought carefully about this matter. Liking someone is not hard. The difficult part is the person you like. There's a whole galaxy separating us. And you have no idea how to make a rocket. One time in a self-study session, he dropped one pen. It rolled into the aisle. I was in the last row. I watched that pen with wide eyes roll past 3 rows of seats. It finally stopped at a 5th row student's feet. That student picked it up and gave it back to him. She whispered a soft thank you. Just a simple thank you. It sounded like water droplets splashing into a cup. I really regretted sitting so far away at that moment. If I had been seated in the 3rd row, that pen would have been the one I picked up. If you don't write a love letter, Kikiong has a suggestion. If you can't say it out loud, writing it down should work. I thought for a moment. It seems like this is the only option left. Writing a love letter is way harder than I thought. I wrote the first draft. Hi Lu Ru-yin, I'm number 10. I like you. Hee-chang read it and gave his opinion. This is less romantic than a wanted poster. For the second draft, I scoured the internet for sweet talk and pieced them together into a letter. Hee-chong read it and had another comment. This reads like a scam text message. The 3rd to 7th drafts all failed. Eventually, I gave up on the reference materials. I simply wrote down what I was thinking. Every day, I watch you sitting in the window seat, calmly reading a book. Sunlight spills over your side profile. I feel that this day has significance. I adore your ponytail. I love how you flip through the pages. I enjoy it when you occasionally glance out the window. A day's side profile. I'm not sure how to say it in person. That's why I wrote this letter. If you don't mind, could you give me a chance to get to know you without signing my name? It wasn't intentional. It happened when I finished writing the last word. My hands were shaking too badly, worried that my name would look bad, so I just decided not to write it at all. Hee-chong wrapped up watching this version. It's rare that it didn't affect me negatively. He nodded and said, "All right, this is somewhat Eastern." And then came that fateful noon. I passed the letter to Hee-chong, emphasizing it 3 times. In class 3, the girl with a ponytail sits in the 2nd row by the window. Hee-chong thought I was being long-winded and waved me off as he left. I hid out in the corridor of the next classroom. My heart raced so fast it felt like it might burst out of my throat. I waited for roughly 10 minutes. Hee-kyong returned and flashed me an OK sign. He's napping, and I tucked it away in the table hole. Are you sure it's the 2nd row next to the window? You've asked that 800 times. The one with a ponytail in the 2nd row next to the window. Don't worry, I just let out a sigh of relief. Then that afternoon, the class group chat blew up. Shin Yushu posted a message. Today, someone slipped me a love letter. I was moved by the anonymity, but I decided to start an investigation. I suggest the suspect admit it voluntarily. I thought I was mistaken. A love letter from Shin Yushu to Shin Yushu. My first instinct was to drag Hee-chong to the restroom. I nearly suffocated her. You sent it to the wrong person. I didn't receive it. It's the 2nd row by the window with a ponytail, no doubt about it. That spot is reserved for Lu Rian. They changed seats today. That's Shin Yushu sitting there. Hee-chong's face went pale in an instant. You didn't mention that they would switch seats. I was crouching on the bathroom floor, holding my head in my hands. It's all over, completely finished, my love letter. Those 3 days of agony and 7 drafts of effort. It's all ended up in the hands of the wrong person. And this mistake has already become a public event for the entire class. The days that followed were truly like sitting on pins and needles. It's no exaggeration. Shin Yushu is the type of person who can turn a love letter into a nationwide event and can turn it into a national variety show. She set up a love letter investigation team in class. She brought together a group of girls to analyze handwriting and track down suspects daily. Every break, the classroom felt like a crime scene. Shin Yushu was showing off the love letter photos she took everywhere. Every day in class felt like gearing up for a battle. I was worried he'd come over and ask me to write a couple of characters as samples, which made me even more nervous. He has a little quirk. He tends to say silly things when he gets nervous. Once, Shin Yushu came over to our table with a love letter photo to ask him. She inquired of him, "Hee-chong, do you think this handwriting looks like it's from someone on your basketball team?" Hee-chong almost dropped the water bottle in his hand, coughing for half a day, then say it in an extremely exaggerated tone. Unlike us, the people on our basketball team can't write. I stomped on his foot hard under the table. Is this person really here to help me? Still come to harm me? What's worse is that Shin Yushu has started doing note authentication. He took high-definition photos of the love letter, going around the class to collect handwriting samples. The reason is to help the teacher tally the writing standards. I nearly had a heart attack right there. When it was my turn, my right hand was shaking under the table like I had Parkinson's disease. I pressed my left hand down hard on my right wrist. The handwriting I ended up writing on paper was all crooked and looked nothing like my usual handwriting. Shin Yushu glanced over. Your handwriting looks like some kind of ghostly symbols. I hurt my wrist while playing basketball. Oh, she didn't think much and just walked away. I was drenched in cold sweat all over my school uniform. Hee-chong was also required to submit handwriting samples. He seemed quite relaxed while writing. It's because his handwriting is totally different from mine. His handwriting is big and round, like drawing a cake. The issue is that he was really nervous. Once he finished, he turned to Shin Yushu and said, "Anyway, it's not my handwriting, and it wasn't written on the 10th, so you can relax." I felt like shoving a basketball right into his mouth at that moment. Shin Yushu was taken aback for a moment. Who said I was suspicious of you two? No, no, I was just saying it casually. Chang quickly waved his hands in denial. From that day on, Yushu looked at me differently. There was just a hint of subtle scrutiny added. What was even more troublesome was, Yushu had set her sights on Zhe as the suspect. Zhe is our class's academic representative. He's the type who wears glasses and is quite cultured. Yushu has noticed that he has been staring at him a lot recently. He writes beautifully, which definitely raises some eyebrows. Zhe really does keep glancing at Yushu. I know this because he's really tall. Being the class representative, he's also seated in the back row. He just happens to sit right next to me. But that has nothing to do with love letters. That's just his own feelings. Seeing Yushu because of a letter, that letter wasn't even a letter of love for him. I started to get closer to Zhe. I feel an overwhelming complexity in my heart. Chang had another idea. Try writing another letter with your left hand. Claim that the previous letter was just a prank. I actually went along with it. The handwriting from my left hand looks like an ECG. Yushu was even more thrilled after reading it. He even switched hands to write, trying to hide his identity and showing sincerity. Chang, I really wish I could just shove you into the basketball hoop. While I'm dealing with the love letter crisis head on, I've made a decision. Since the letter can't get through, I'll go myself. Not to confess my feelings, I don't have that kind of courage yet. It's about getting close to him first, to help him get to know me. At least he should know that I'm not just that. The athlete who sleeps in class. The first step is to create chances for us to interact. I found Zhe, all for a plate of braised pork from the cafeteria. I asked him to change the duty schedule a bit. Lu Rian has her duty on Wednesday. I also changed my duty to Wednesday. During our first duty together, I took the initiative to clean his row. He looked up at me. He probably found it odd that I was being so proactive. I pretended to casually bring up a topic. Lu Rian, what kind of books do you read every day? The kind that you wouldn't normally read. Wow, I was caught off guard right from the beginning. What do you mean by looking down on others? I've read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms too. The comic book version doesn't really count. I was at a loss for words, damn it. It really is the comic version. But his tone wasn't cold when he said this. He even seemed to slightly twitch the corner of his mouth. It wasn't a smile, but it also wasn't entirely expressionless. I picked up on this faint signal and kept talking. So, recommend a book. Will you read it? I'll definitely read what you suggested. As soon as I said that, I regretted it. It was too blunt. But he didn't press for more details. He simply said it lightly. The library has 100 years of solitude. I went to read it. I'd tackle any difficult book for you. The next day, I went to the library to check out that book. I opened the first page, and there was a whole list of names. They looked like trains, and I almost fainted right then and there. But I gritted my teeth and kept reading. I was worried that if he asked, I should be able to keep up the conversation. I even made a special trip to the library to read. I sat directly opposite him. After about 15 minutes, I could feel my eyelids getting heavy. I was nodding off, almost banging my head on the table. If it's not worth watching, then just don't look. His voice carried lightly from the other side. I suddenly looked up, instinctively putting on a tough front. Who said it was bad? I was just reaching the climax. What page are you on? I glanced down and turned to the 7th page, and she smiled. She actually smiled. It wasn't just a polite smile. It was a smile she couldn't hold back, tinged with a bit of helplessness. The librarian gave us a glare. He hurriedly covered his mouth with his hand. But at that moment, his eyes crinkled into a smile. I felt like I could read this heavenly book 100 times over. Getting closer to Lu Ruyan turned out to be easier than I thought. It's more agonizing than I thought it would be. Everything goes well because she hasn't turned me away whenever I'm around her, even though she doesn't initiate conversations with me. But she also doesn't push me away. Sometimes I say something silly. She even plays along and remembers what I said. It's torturous because I have no idea if she sees me as a friend or as a classmate who just barges in out of nowhere. I started sneaking things onto her desk. On the first day, I left a bottle of milk. I have training at 7:30 a.m. I got to the classroom by 7 to set everything up. Going to the playground is really safe. I won't get caught. On the second day, I put another bottle. By the third day, I felt that having milk every day was too dull. I switched to strawberry yogurt. By the fourth day, the strawberry flavor was sold out. We're left with just the original flavor. I paused to think, worried he'd think I was just being dismissive. So I ripped off a piece of paper and jotted down a note. The strawberry flavor is sold out, so today it's just the original flavor to settle for. It was only after I wrote it that I realized a problem. My handwriting looks just like it does on the love letter. I gazed at that note paper for quite a while. In the end, I decided to put it up anyway. I thought to myself, she probably wouldn't pay attention to such details. Later, I found out it was Lu Ru Yin. It was this sticky note that helped her identify me. She pays attention to every little detail. The strokes at the end of the letters. The sticky note also carries the scent of rubber from the basketball court. When Shin Yushu consulted him with the original version of the love letter, she had gotten a whiff of that same scent up close. Even though I got to the classroom earlier than she did every morning. She knows all about this. But she kept silent. This woman is far too calculating. That November rain was like a blessing from above. I forgot my umbrella that day, and so did he. We were standing at the entrance of the classroom building. Before us was the gray, drizzly rain. I rummaged through my whole backpack. Plastic bags, notebooks, and my basketball jersey. There was nothing to keep me dry. In the end, I glanced at the school jacket I was holding. I made a choice that seemed really cool back then. In hindsight, it was a really foolish choice. I held the coat up over their heads. Come on, this coat won't keep out any rain. It won't stop the rain, but it can shield against the wind. Which way do you live? Exit through the east gate of the school and take a left. I live to the west. What a coincidence. I also told that lie with no finesse. But back then, I couldn't care less. I just wanted to spend a bit more time walking with her. It was pouring, and the coat didn't help at all. My hair got wet in no time. Water trickled down my forehead. I wiped my forehead haphazardly with my free hand. She mentioned that your coat is all wet. I said it's okay. It'll dry once the sun comes out tomorrow. He said the forecast says it's going to rain again tomorrow. I thought, then it'll be the day after tomorrow, and he laughed. I swear that was the sweetest voice I've ever heard. It wasn't that kind of loud laugh. It was just a gentle sound. It feels like the wind rustling through the leaves. But I can hear it loud and clear. I spent 15 minutes walking in the rain. Spoke a bunch of random nonsense. Talking about basketball strategies. Which cafeteria window has the best food? Hee-chan got punished again. All of it is just useless nonsense. But I just can't stop. Because I'm afraid that if it gets quiet, he can actually hear my heart racing. By the time he got to the east gate, the rain had lightened up. He thanked me before stepping inside. I told him not to get the wrong idea. I'm just worried you might catch a cold from the rain. And then spread it to the entire class. He could have simply said something normal. Instead, he insisted on adding, don't get the wrong idea. But I still couldn't resist adding something else. If it rains again tomorrow, just wait for me here. I took 2 umbrellas with me. As soon as I finished talking, I bolted. I was too scared to see how she reacted. That night, I took a long detour around the school before finally getting home. My clothes were drenched to the point where I could wring them out. My mom wanted to know what was going on. I told her it was raining and I forgot my umbrella. He asked, aren't you wearing a coat? The coat I'm talking about. It was still wet the next day. But honestly, I couldn't care less. The basketball tournament at the end of November. Class 3 versus Class 5. Before the game, I stole a glance at the audience. He showed up and sat in the back. Sitting next to him was Shin Yushu. I had a terrible first half, missed shots and got blocked. I nearly messed up while dribbling. He asked me what was going on at halftime. I said it was nothing, but really, I was just too nervous. He's tuned into the second half. I force myself to calm down. I try not to think about the audience. I won't think about whether he's watching. I just focus on the ball. When I sink 2 three-pointers in a row, the whole crowd is shouting my name. With 30 seconds left, we're down by 1. I've got the ball. I dribble past the defender at the three-point line. I jump, and the ball spins around the rim twice before bouncing out. In that instant, I could think of nothing but one thing. I can't embarrass myself in front of him. I dashed into the gap between the two of them. I snatched the rebound and scored by putting the ball back in the basket. The whistle blew, and we had won. Everyone came rushing over. Hee-chang and my teammates piled on top of me. I struggled for a while before finally crawling out. Then I instinctively glanced at the audience. Across the whole playground, I spotted him. We locked eyes. He neither clapped nor cheered. He simply sat there quietly, grinning at me. I flashed him a peace sign. He bowed his head, but I noticed his lips twitch. Shin Yushu seemed to mutter something next to me. Rian shook her head and turned away. But I just knew he was grinning. Some things can be sensed no matter how far apart. That night, I just couldn't sleep, tossing and turning in bed. All I could think about was the way he looked at me. It wasn't the excited cheering. It wasn't exaggerated applause either. It was just him quietly sitting there. His gaze was fixed on me. I suddenly realized that for this gaze, I felt I could shoot another 100 balls for it. Hee-chong shouted from the side. Who are you comparing yourself to? Number 10. Why don't you compare yourself to us? I gave him a little shove. After the December midterms, we had a big cleanup. That day, everything came to light. My homeroom teacher asked me to create the bulletin board. I already have poor handwriting. Writing on the bulletin board is even more messy. I was holding some chalk and standing at the blackboard. I called out and noticed Shin Yushu standing beside me, watching. He wasn't interested in the bulletin's content, but in my handwriting. He pulled out his phone and brought up a picture. It was the love letter. He compared the picture with the writing on the blackboard. Come out with me after the 10th class. Shin Yushu's voice was very soft, but my legs had already gone weak. I walked with him to the corner of the hallway. My palms were sweaty all over. I was about to crush the chalk. That love letter was written by you, wasn't it? He didn't beat around the bush. He left me no room to make excuses. I stayed silent for 3 seconds. I wasn't trying to figure out how to lie. I was trying to figure out how to apologize. How did you find out? Your handwriting looks just like what's on the board. Do you think I'm stupid? I took a deep breath and apologized. That letter wasn't for you. As soon as I spoke those words, I braced myself for the scolding. Whether they call me a jerk or not, or for playing with people's feelings, I deserve it all. But Shin Yushu's response surprised me. He paused for a few seconds. Then he said, I know you study by the window. His quiet profile seemed to say it was someone else, not me. I know very well how I act in class. When he said this, there was a hint of laughter in his voice. Yet, I can sense a touch of bitterness behind that smile. After all, he had been happy for over a month. Now he realizes it was all just a misunderstanding. I'm truly sorry, Shin Yushu. It wasn't intentional. Why are you apologizing? He waved his hand dismissively. It's like writing a love letter and sending it to the wrong person. You're the one who's really unlucky, you know? I really don't know what to say anymore. He paused briefly, lowering his voice a little. Honestly, I was pretty happy when I first got it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized. When have I ever sat down quietly to read a book? But what if there really is someone who likes me? I also want to experience being the heroine who gets love letters, just this once. She quickly got herself back on track. She went back to being the carefree Shin Yushu. She gave me a roll of her eyes. But honestly, your love letter is just awful. Why do I always see you sitting in that window seat every day? Can't you come up with something more creative? I spent 3 days on this. Are you really calling me dumb? But I think my best friend would totally fall for this. She loves this kind of silly, genuine charm. After he said that, he gave my shoulder a friendly pat. His pat was so strong, it felt like he was giving a teammate a slap on the back. If you really like Ru Yen on the 10th, don't let anyone else take you there. Go by yourself. Shin Yushu didn't reveal this publicly at the time. However, he took a more ruthless approach. A few days later, during a break between classes, he leaned over Lu Ruyan's desk, speaking loudly enough for the whole class to hear. He asked, Lu Ruyan, do you remember the day we switched seats back in October? About that love letter that mentioned reading by the window. The quiet profile described in it was actually you. The classroom went silent in an instant. All eyes were scanning back and forth between me and Lu Ruyan. Hee-chong whispered beside me. Come on, he already told you to get up. I kicked his chair. Lu Ruyan kept her head down. I couldn't see his expression clearly from my angle. My ears were burning up. I was frozen in my seat, unable to move. Shin Yushu looked my way. It was clear what that glance meant. I've done all I can. The rest is up to you. The days that followed became incredibly torturous. Originally, between Lu Ruyan and me, we have slowly developed a natural rhythm of getting along. The result was poked by Shin Yushu like this. That unspoken understanding was exposed in public. No matter how composed he is, he can't hold on any longer. Both of them ended up feeling uncomfortable. He started to avoid me. Seeing me from afar in the corridor, they take a detour. I looked down whenever our eyes met in the cafeteria. I'm not doing any better myself. I got 2 cups of milk tea. I wanted to give her one of them. I stood at the classroom door, hesitating for 5 minutes. Eventually, I ended up giving the strawberry-flavored cup to Hee-chong. Hee-chong spat it out immediately. Since when do you drink strawberry flavor number 10? This is for Lu Ruyan, right? Why don't you just give it to her? Just be quiet. I'll cover his mouth and take him away. When I turned around, I saw Lu Ruyin standing by the classroom window. I could see this scene all too clearly. I just want to find a crack in the ground to disappear into. Those 2 weeks were the toughest days of my high school life. It was even tougher than the day I mistakenly sent the love letter. Because at least she didn't know when I sent it to the wrong person. Now she knows, and so does the entire class. And I didn't even get to make a proper confession. Everything is caught in an awkward limbo. I have feelings for him, and he likely senses it. But no one has dared to address it directly. I can't bear to look at him during class every day. Occasionally, I really can't resist sneaking a look. She just happens to be glancing back at that moment. Our eyes meet, and then quickly dart away at the same time. Like two hedgehogs trying to get closer, but afraid of hurting each other. I've started having insomnia, lying in bed thinking about it all. Should I just go and talk to him directly? What if he's just too shy to say no? What if he actually doesn't like me? What if Shin Yushu got the wrong idea about him? A million what-ifs rushed through my mind like comments on a live stream. Every single one was telling me to just give up. This situation went on for almost 2 weeks. Hee-chang really couldn't take it anymore. He teamed up with Shin Yushu to issue me a final ultimatum. Hee-chang mentioned that it was me who delivered the message in the first place. This time, you need to make the confession yourself. Shin Yushu is even more ruthless. If you haven't said anything by the 10th, I'll just take the liberty to say it for you. I'm not just messing with you. I really mean what I say. Referring to the time you gave Rian some yogurt. About the time you went the extra mile to drop her off in the ring. About the time you dozed off in the library on the 7th night. I know it all. Should I announce it at the broadcasting station? I really believe he can pull it off. So the New Year's cultural festival turned into my deadline. The night before the cultural festival, I shut myself in my room. To wrap up the second love letter I'd spent 3 days writing. Unlike before, I didn't make a draft this time. I didn't even look up any romantic phrases online. I simply took out the letter paper and wrote down what was on my mind. I wrote it word by word. As I reached the middle, my pen came to a halt. I glanced at my handwriting on the paper, and it was still just as messy. The ends of my strokes were still too heavy-handed. I ended up leaving little tails when I finished. I recalled that my handwriting had exposed my identity in the first letter. But this time, I didn't bother trying to hide it. This is my handwriting, clumsy and not beautiful. But every stroke is written with seriousness. After finishing the last line, I neatly placed it in the bottom right corner. Wrote my own words on the 10th. Then I folded the stationery paper 3 times. The same as the first letter from heel to toe. Hee-chang sent a message asking if I was ready. I replied with 1 word, and he asked if I should help you deliver it. I made a decision that day. Hee-chang is in charge of the sound equipment. While rehearsing, he nearly hooked up the sound wires the wrong way. He played a gymnastics routine theme song, and I scolded him for 20 minutes. Shin Yushu is in charge of taking Lu Ruyin to the specified spot. Chun Zhe is in charge of logistics, and he has been roped in as well. Lately, he has been getting really close to Shin Yushu. He pretty much goes along with everything Shin Yushu says. I was waiting backstage, my palms sweaty as I had already recited Feng Xian's love letter like poetry. I took another 3 days to write this letter. This time, unlike the first letter, I signed it Lu Ruyin. As I stood off to the side watching him perform his recitation on stage. The lights hit him, and initially, his voice was a little shaky. Then, his voice gradually steadied. As he got to a certain part in the middle, his eyes scanned the audience and landed on me. I wasn't sure if he actually saw me. Yet, my heart skipped a beat. When the recitation finished, applause erupted. He stepped down from the stage, and I blocked his way. The lines I had practiced 100 times were running through my mind. But when I was about to speak, I forgot everything, and he was looking at me. There are people walking by. Someone paused to glance at me. I can't focus on that anymore. That last letter was sent to the wrong address. I passed the letter to him, my hands shaking. I'm giving you this letter myself. He bowed his head to receive it. He opened it and took a quick look. I was watching his expression closely. I felt like my heart was about to leap out of my throat. After he finished watching, he was silent for a few seconds. My mind began to race. Oh no, is he upset? Does he not like me? Does he think I'm annoying? I quickly tried to fix this, not wanting to put any pressure on him. If you don't want to, just forget I said anything. On the 10th, he called my name softly. But I felt like I was frozen, as if someone had hit the pause button. You know, he looked up at me with bright eyes. I had my suspicions quite a while back. When did you figure it out? It was the day you left yogurt on my table. The writing on the note looks just like that on the love letter. The strokes have a little tail at the end. I felt my face flush all at once. So you've known all along. So why didn't you tell me? He looked down at the letter he was holding. A smile crept onto his lips. I was waiting for you to come and tell me directly. What happened next? To be honest, I don't really remember it clearly. I think someone was clapping. I think Shinyushu was screaming. I think He-chang was shouting from the back. I knew it would work. All I remember is him standing in front of me. He refolded that letter, and he put it back in the textbook. I just stood there looking like an idiot. After a long time, I finally managed to say something. So I guess that means I agreed. She glanced at me. What do you say? The days that followed became much simpler. The news about me and Lu Ruyan being together spread all over the class. Everyone reacted surprisingly uniformly. I knew it all along. He-chang proudly claims to be the best matchmaker. He shares the story of the love letter that was mistakenly delivered to the wrong person with everyone he meets. His version changes every time. It becomes increasingly exaggerated. Eventually, it evolved into me intentionally sending it to the wrong person, to pressure number 10 into confessing his feelings. I was too lazy to call him out. Shinyushu set up a group called the Love Letter CP After Sales Service Group. He monitors the progress of my relationship with Ruyan in there every day. I feel this group is entirely redundant, but I can't bring myself to say I'm worried he might actually say something inappropriate on my behalf. Shinyushu and Chunze ended up together too. One day, Ruyan asked him if he cared about the love letter situation. Shinyushu leaned against the windowsill, swung her legs, and said she didn't care one bit. It's a lie. After all, I was the main character of the love letter for a whole month. But then I thought about it, and those lines were never meant for me. She took a moment to pause, and I realized that someone liking me doesn't require a love letter. While saying this, he glanced at Chunze, who was busy wiping the blackboard. Chunze turned around, adjusted his glasses, and his ears turned red. I smiled back when Ruyan smiled. One evening during a study break, Ruyan suddenly said while browsing her textbook, "When you wrote on the sticky note that the strawberry flavor was out of stock, did you ever think it would reveal that you never considered it? You took me to the East Gate on a rainy day, but your home is obviously in the Northwest. Did you ever think you would get caught? Never crossed your mind. You dozed off on the 7th page in the library. You even claimed you reached the climax. Did you ever think I would actually trust you? Can we please not dwell on the past?" He shut his textbook and looked straight at me. His tone remained calm and indifferent. Yet there was a tiny smile playing at the corners of his lips. "I really appreciate everything you did on the 10th. However, he took a moment to pause, sounding very sincere. As I looked at him, I suddenly realized how those chaotic days, the heartbreak of sending a love letter with 7 drafts to the wrong address, a rainy evening drenched to the skin. Every embarrassing moment in front of her was totally worth it. "I like you, Lu Ruyan," she said, lowering her head. "How many times have you said that already? Didn't you say you wanted to hear me say it directly? Then I'll say it every day." He fell silent for 2 seconds. Then he let out a soft sound. At the end of the semester, while tidying up the desk, Lu Ruyan retrieved the misdelivered love letter from Shinyushu. She kept it together with the one I later gave him personally, and added it to his collection of essays. I sneakily opened it for a quick peek. There were 2 letters placed side by side. The one on the left is the misdelivered letter. The one on the right is the correctly delivered letter. Beside it, there's a line of small text he wrote. "After all the twists and turns, you still made your way to me." I gazed at that line of words for quite a while. Then I sneakily added a line beside it. "It's not that I ended up in your hands. It's that I always intended to end up in your hands." The next day, he realized he hadn't been paying attention to me. His big ears turned red throughout the whole class. During the break, he shut his notebook. He quietly said something while pressing it down with his textbook. "Don't go messing with my notebook." I wasn't messing with it. I only added 1 sentence. That still counts as messing with it. I won't mess with it next time. It's not like I can't look at it. He said this in such a soft voice. It was so soft that it nearly got drowned out by the noise in the hallway. But I caught every single word. I heard them all. Winter sunlight streamed in through the window, casting bright light on the desk. It lit up her drooping eyelashes. It also glimmered on the notebook that contained 2 letters. I reclined in my chair, taking it all in. Suddenly, I realized that I had sent my love letters to the wrong person during my sophomore year. The circles I was part of had drifted apart. I've done countless embarrassing things. I can't even keep track. But if I had the chance to start over, I would still find myself in that September classroom, sitting across 4 rows of seats. I see the girl in the second row by the window, quietly reading. And then I would spend a whole year, clumsily trying to approach her, to personally tell her that she is worth it,